greatest co-host in the world. Watch 2K99. Get ready to rumble.
The tag team champions of the world.
My brotherly crevat.
That is the best intro I have ever received.
The world. The Buffalo Jets fan.
Yo.
George Fant is a barely above replacement level, pretty good left tackle.
How can you say
Compare
that when
that
he
to
was
him.
top 3 in sack percentage last year for left tackles?
And I think when in doubt, until you have better reason, go with the optimistic view. And our defensive line is going to be giving a lot of people some trouble.
But yeah, it's got to be, I'm with you. I don't like the Nathan's fries when they're like floppy. It's got to be like done really well, you know. It's very hard to teach 6'3" and 4.3 speed. That's very rare. The talent's there. He's just got to put it together mentally.
Right.
To get on to you, I'm a cheater. What's going on, Jets fans? I am pumped. Let's go. I was just talking Jets on another channel, and I'm realizing something. We are going to terrorize the other team's quarterback. Our defense is going to dominate like the old days. Remember when we had a great defense? It all started with my Jets fandom with the sack exchange. That's what it's going to be like. We're terrorizing the quarterbacks. We're going to be all over them with our new defensive edge, Will McDonald. Carl Lawson looking better than he's ever looked since he's joined the team. The get-off for Bryce Huff. JFM, Michael Clemens, and of course, the big Q, Quinnen Williams. And did I even mention JJ? It's going to be dominant. And then guess what? For the first time, they're going to get to tee off because we're going to have a lead sometimes, a lot of times, because Aaron Rodgers ain't no joke. And Garrett Wilson's going to explode. And our offensive line is best. It's the best it's been since JD has gotten here. It's best, better, deeper. We are ready. Are you ready? Let's go. What is going on, Cy Thompson? Good to see you in the chat. Jets Mess is in the house. Sean McAteer, the guardian of Temecula, is here. Harlan Abraham, a friendly, nice young man. Knobcraft, the Chef Craft, in the house, baby. Hank G is here. Tony Alexio, my buddy Tony, is here in the house. Love to see him. Peter is in the house. What's going on, Peter? I know I'm not too psyched about the Mets. Mark Reese, my teacher friend in New Jersey, is here. Our friend and new member, William Sprague, is in the house. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Thank you for becoming a snacker. I appreciate that. And Nathan Colgrove is here. You guys got off to an early start today. We're exploding. We got everybody here. Aunt Jess, what's going on, my friend? Twisted is here. John Salty McNulty is here. Yes, he is. Snowball's in the house. And let's see. That's it for now. That's it. But you know what? You know who's not here? You know whose name I skipped in the chat? You know what time it is, right? It's time to introduce but let's get the music going. We haven't done this in too long. He is the hot dog eating champion of Jets YouTube content providers with 18 hot dogs eaten in 30 minutes. He ate 13 to 14 hot dogs live on this very show. I witnessed this happen. He's willing to eat pizza. He's willing to eat cheeseburgers. He makes the best Italian food in the world. No, it's not Italy Jet. It's not. It's not. It's my co-host, the greatest co-host in the world. What 2K99? What is going on, Adam?
Jeremy, in honor of a true legend of the game, in honor of a true legend of sport and of entertainment and of pop culture, there's only one way that we can start this show. Jeremy, I make you the humble with the camouflage, you freaking jabroni, and fuck the Tom Brady, and the fuck the Atlanta Braves, and their fucking tomahawk chop. Fuck the motherfuckers, Iron Sheik. That's the most y'all will hear me curse in one shot. Screw them all. Rest in peace, Cosro, the Iron Sheik. Thank you for all you did for us. Rest in peace. Good man, lived a heck of a life. But, man, definitely left his mark. I want to give a little bit of love to the Iron Sheik, who passed away today at the age of 81. So rest in peace, Cos.
Yes. The Iron Sheik gave me years of entertainment, both as a wrestler, his mic skills, but also on the Howard Stern show. Many glorious visits to the Howard Stern studio where he talked about and stayed in character. God, how to love the man. I was confused to this day. I'm not even sure if it was a character, but fuck Hulk Hogan. I killed him, and one of my greatest moments listening to radio was when Artie Lang took the persona of the real Iron Sheik and called into the show when Iron Sheik was on the show, and Iron Sheik screaming at him, "I'm going to kill you if I find you, you imposter. I'm the real Iron Sheik." And Artie Lang, doing his best imitation, was screaming, "I am the real Iron Sheik." And they were going at it back and forth. And about 30 minutes later, the Iron Sheik looks over behind the desk that Artie's sitting and finally realized that it was Artie on the phone. It's one of the great.
You were definitely all the time, jabroni.
Oh, nothing but love to the Iron Sheik.
Absolutely.
For sure. So Deshaun is new to the channel. He never imagined the Jets would be a good team. Well, you must be younger than I am, because there was a time when we were a good team. I know it's been a really long time, but there was a time where we were a good team, and it wasn't, for me, it wasn't that long ago, but I'm an old man. But yeah, I think you're right, though. It's been a long time. And with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and the Jets defense, it's hard to imagine them not being a good team. And what's up, Vincenzo? It's good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you as well. And, it's amazing because, like we talk about, this is kind of the quiet time of the year when all there really is to do is to make random predictions and talk about, well, what could go right? What could go wrong? What's going on with this team that maybe we weren't looking at during free agency and the draft? And there's still some people, and it seems like their biggest argument for the Jets not being good, you know what that biggest argument is? It's because they're the New York Jets. Like, it freaking matters. Like, there's this one guy, like, I got to be honest with you. I subscribed to ESPN Plus a while ago because to watch the 30 for 30s, to watch the NHL games. But part of that is you get certain articles. The problem is some of these people who write these articles, I don't know how the hell they have a job in journalism, and guys like you and I don't. Guys like Dom C. I mean, we could pull out just about any jabroni, from the chat. I swear, even Kareem Carson or J. Cole could write an article better than, say, Bill Barnwell does. Still predicting a 4th place finish for the Jets for no other a guy who is always down on the Jets no matter what. And it's really just because they're the New York Jets and they don't have the resume. How many times do we have to realize with the NFL, it is a year-to-year proposition. Football teams turn around quickly out of nowhere, whether it's for the better, whether it's for the worse. If you are just saying that the New York Jets are going to be a bottom of the barrel team, if they're going to be a last place team in this division, just because it's the New York Jets, it is laziness. Do a better job. Devote some time to your freaking craft. And I don't mean Robert Kraft either, but I saw that take this week. And you know, we can be very pessimistic about the Jets, and understandably so. But be pessimistic for the right reasons, for reasons that make sense, not because the letters on their helmet are JETS. Let's get with it, and let's be better than that. Hate, but hate with some intelligence, for the love of God. Ugh.
I'll tell you why,
Deshaun
Deshaun
Lattimore.
Lattimore. The reason they're making a big deal out of canceling minicamp is because there's no other news. And those guys make a living getting clicks. That's how they make a living. So that's the exact reason. The reality is, my food is being delivered. We got pasta with tons of grated cheese. Thank you for putting so much on.
Oh, I had pasta as well myself. I had a little. I
I
made a little.
Again with the dinner. Okay. It's like the spirally pasta too.
The spirally pasta.
Can...
Guys, this is where I have to start carrying the show because Jeremy's going to be eating. I didn't know this was going to be part of the deal tonight.
but going back to that question, it really is real. That's the reason they're making a big deal out of it. I'm actually relieved that they canceled. Only, and it wasn't even the air quality. I didn't even know about the air quality. I'm just paranoid. 40 plus years of Jets fandom. I just hate unnecessary injuries. I think our guys have to come to camp a week earlier, as do who we playing, Cleveland in the Hall of Fame game. Yeah, I think that they have to as well. We're getting an extra week. They're coming in earlier, an extra week to prepare for that Hall of Fame game. I think that Rodgers was here for the whole time, which is more OTAs than he's probably seen in the last 10 years of his career. Definitely the last few years. He hasn't been there for Green Bay. I think they got a lot of time to talk the language. I think a lot of the guys will be studying and do what they do. I think that finally we're not like 2 years ago in 2021 when we're first gelling as a football team. I think that this team is starting to have that continuity. We're adding people, but even with adding Aaron Rodgers, by having Hackett there, there's continuity. There's continuity on the defensive side. The players are getting to know each other. They're bonded. That's what OTAs are really about. I think we have plenty of time in camp now. I see no reason to not say, you guys are coming in a week early, canceling the rest of OTAs, get the hell out of here, relax, rest up, study the playbook, get together and play, whatever, because the guys like to get together and work out, do your thing. We'll see you a week early and we'll prepare for the season. And it's not a big deal at all.
I'm not too freaked about this, but I have seen numerous radio shows who are talking about what a horrible mistake this is, that Robert Saleh doesn't know what he's doing, and just on and on and on about this being a mistake. Well, you know what? We're never going to know the answer to that, because if they did this extra week, and let's say there was an injury, let's say we had another catastrophic, summer injury like we had with Carl Lawson, like when they were doing the joint training camps with Green Bay. That's the most recent example. But it seems as though almost every year the Jets have one big offseason injury, whatever it may be. But in this case, I got no issues with them holding off on that, considering the earlier start. Because let's face it, the Hall of Fame game is still 2 months away. There is a long, long time to go between now and then. So, I don't have a big problem with that. But I will say this. It, to me, is going to be paramount to get off to a quick start, because that first game against Buffalo is going to be big, because Buffalo keeps adding and adding and adding. Cameron Dantzler, cornerback. They just added Leonard Floyd at pass rusher. I mean, they've got Von Miller and Leonard Floyd. Now, we don't know if Miller's going to be ready. I don't think he's going to be ready for the first game. But I was thinking the Jets had an advantage with the pass rush position. But now that they've added Leonard Floyd, Buffalo keeps adding and adding and adding. Plus, there's still the race for Dalvin Cook. I don't expect either team to get DeAndre Hopkins. If he goes to Tennessee, you know what? Tennessee can have him. I personally don't want any part of Hopkins. But Dalvin Cook interests me. I've been a big Dalvin Cook fan basically since he started playing in this league. I just don't know if running back is really a big area of need. I wonder with Dalvin Cook, if the Jets were to sign him, it's kind of with the idea of keeping him away from Buffalo and Miami. Because with what you hear, the only teams who are really looking at Dalvin Cook is the AFC East teams. Everybody except New England, which is crazy. Because, I like our running back room quite a bit. I mean, if we were to add something somewhere, I would like to bring Quan Alexander back, but more importantly, I want to extend Quinnen Williams. It's not so much about adding a new piece in for me. It's about keeping what the Jets already have. That, to me, is more important. I love Dalvin Cook, but is Dalvin Cook really willing to accept a backup role once Breece Hall is back and ready to go? Now, I'm good with starting Breece Hall on the PUP list, especially if this running back room is, think about it, Dalvin Cook, Michael Carter, Bam Knight, and Izzy. And if you add Nick Barton as your fullback, that is as deep a running back room as I can imagine. That is pretty freaking impressive. But at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of this team, and even when you do run the ball, you can only run it with one running back at a time. So to me, if I'm Dalvin Cook, do I really see a real fit on the Jets as opposed to if I'm going to Buffalo and, they've got, I think, James Cook, Damian Harris, Devin Singletary went away. He went to Houston. Miami's got a bunch of really good running backs, but as far as upside goes, to me, nobody touches Breece Hall. So right. I'd be a little surprised to see Dalvin come over here, but it's something that would really, really interest me. And I know I kind of took it off topic from where you were, but the idea of Dalvin Cook, it really does fascinate me. I'm just not sure that he is what the Jets need at this time. What do you think about Dalvin?
Yeah, I would be shocked if they did it. Look, I wouldn't complain. I would figure there's a reason. To me, it would make me really think about what they think about Breece Hall for this year. To me, it would mean that they're thinking it's going to be a year before he's really anything close to what he, was. That's what it would tell me if we got him, because otherwise it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, only because we need the money this year because we really want to restructure Rodgers and take some of that $100 million away, right? That's why I think we're building up cap space, because we don't want to push the entire $100 million over the next few years. We don't even know how long he's going to stay. So I think that we want to balance out as much of that as we can. Also, it would be a surprise to me because if you bring in Cook, you're going to have to lose one of these young players. And I know a lot of people are, Michael Carter's not good. He's not good. I think it's an exaggeration. I think people have jumped the gun on that. I think even in the first half of the year, he was fine. He had a very solid rookie year. He was fine until he had no offensive line. Because if you look, it's not a coincidence that not only did he drop off, but Bam Knight dropped off, and all of a sudden we couldn't run the ball. Well, maybe that had to do with the fact that our entire offensive line was decimated, and every defense started playing us like we're going to put 8-9 guys in the box because we've realized and established the fact that you do not have a quarterback. So I'm not giving up on the running backs we have. I think they're young. I wouldn't want to lose any of them for a 1-year rental to fill in, for whatever reason they get them. That said, if they get them, I believe and I trust in JD, and I believe there's a reason why, and that they felt there was a need for a reason. So and how can any fan not be excited if you were to stack Dalvin Cook on this team? When you already have Rodgers, and you already have Breece Hall and Michael Carter and Bam Knight, and you got Izzy, who we took, from Pittsburgh, and we added Lazard, and you got Garrett Wilson back to explode. I mean, how could you not be excited? I mean, it would be exciting because he's a great player, he's a dynamic player, but I just can't make sense of it. So it's hard for me to understand or believe that JD is very serious about it. But who knows? Maybe he's trying to get him at a good price.
It very well could be that. And, you go back to the way the defenses were playing the Jets towards the second half of last year, stacking the box. Couldn't that have been the defensive strategy going back for the last 10, 11, or 12 years playing the Jets? That is the exact defense. I feel like we have been talking about that forever, where the Jets, their best offensive players are usually running backs, whether it's been, I mean, we could go down the names, whether it's Chris Ivory, whether it's let's hand the ball off to Frank Gore and watch him fall forward on his face for 2 yards, just as long as he gets his 20,000 yards, we'll consider that a successful year. So, yeah, I mean, the truth is we haven't had a potent passing attack since, 2015, the 1 year. But outside of that, you got to go back to the Sanchez throwing to Braylon, Santonio, Jericho, and Keller. You really have to go back to 2009, 2010. I mean, I go back when I research these trivia questions, for these shows, and I go back, I look at some of these rosters, and I want to pull my hair out. I mean, from my face, my chin, my forearms. I mean, it is painful looking at some of these rosters. When we look at some of the guys who are getting targets, I mean, it's excruciating. Yeah. I mean, when a few years from now, we're going to talk about name a random Jet. We'll be talking about names like Chris Hogan. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, some of these things that we dealt with, for years, we had to talk ourselves up to thinking we could be a somewhat capable offense, just a decent offense. But it was never going to be an offense that was going to contend for anything. We just wanted to not be embarrassing. That's right. That's what our goal was, to not embarrass ourselves. Mediocrity was a goal to attain. Mediocrity is now our floor.
And what's so amazing is that you're in a situation where we finally look like we have this potentially great offense where we could finally put up points. And it happens to be when we've had a resurgence in our defense. So the timing couldn't be better. The timing couldn't be better. If we start scoring points now and suddenly we're scoring 25 plus points a game instead of the 17 that we were scoring last year, and I think it could be more. I think we can get up into the 30, area of average points per game. It's very possible. It's, as our defense comes out and is the same defense they were last year in that scenario, we're going to win a lot of football games. We're going to be very dangerous. So. Snowball says, have you seen Lawson at practice? He looks like the Hulk with the speed of the Flash. He'll lead the team in sacks this year. Don't say he can't. I definitely wouldn't say that he can't. I would say that I've noticed it about the entire defensive line. Everybody that I've seen on that defensive line, it's almost like they made a pact together to get into the best shape of their lives. Because if you look at Michael Clemens and then you look at Lawson, you start to say, holy moly, like these guys are for real. They're serious. And then Will McDonald, I know that people are saying he needs to put on some 15 pounds of muscle or whatever, but he looks damn good to me right now.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, and hey, Carl Lawson last year, he had 7 sacks, which was second on the team. Quinnen had 12. So it was Quinnen with 12, Lawson with 7, JFM with 5. That was the top 3. Bryce Huff had 3.5. Nobody else had more than 3 sacks. And it's interesting because the Jets had 45 sacks last year. That was, I think, 5th or 6th in the NFL, which is pretty good. But to me, there's definitely potential to be even better. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles had 75 sacks last year. There's no reason the Jets cannot do better, this year than they did last year. So, And the other thing with Lawson, he said a year removed from that Achilles surgery, sometimes that Achilles still ached when he played last year. He wasn't really playing, with full confidence that he couldn't re-injure himself. And sometimes that burden is mental, where you have to get through that, where you have to feel confident that you are back to your old ways. And I think Lawson's there. And a lot of Jets fans and media members, understandably, were talking about the idea of cutting Carl Lawson to save that money. Well, you know what? They didn't do it. They're taking the chance on him. And I think it's going to be a worthwhile chance to take. I mean, our hope is that we see the Carl Lawson that we saw in practice before he went down on that field against Green Bay in that preseason scrimmage. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for him. Now, he has shown the ability in the past to generate the pressure, but not necessarily finish the sack. Now, I am all for him generating the pressure because I think he has enough players around him on this defense, not just on the defensive line, but in the secondary where that could create turnovers. I mean, think about in the Pittsburgh game last year when Michael Carter II got that big interception off Kenny Pickett. That was because of a generated pass rush, because of a pass that was rushed. Carter was able to see the play, cut the pass off, and create a turnover that turned that whole game around. If Lawson's going to do that a bunch of times this year, how could I not be there for it? Because keep in mind, for all we want to say about this defense being elite, I'm sorry. For the last 2 years, when you finish 31st and 29th in taking the ball away over 2 seasons, that is not an elite defense to me. That is a good defense. It's a capable defense, but I want a defense that not just does the bend but don't break, but can break the offense. And I think they have another step up to take as far as that goes, and I want to see them do that this year.
Yeah, I think the big difference is going to be, I think bigger than the improvement of adding McDonald, bigger than the improvement of Lawson having that extra year, the Achilles injury. These are all legitimate reasons why we're a better defensive line. Not to mention that JJ and Clemens are now in their second season and finish their rookie years. And players obviously start learning the league and get better and better typically. So there's every reason to believe and understand why this defensive line will be better than it was last year and put even more pressure on quarterbacks and get even more sacks. But I think the biggest difference and a bigger factor than even that is the fact that we're going to score points now, that there are going to be games where we have the lead. And we're going to be putting in our opponents in a situation where they have to pass more in the second part of the game, in like mid-third quarter to the end of the game, where they're going to be in shotgun more. And they can't do the little dinky plays that take lots of time and long drives with small yardage, which is pretty much the only way to attack the Jets defense. That's what we're the most susceptible to, is the short game, the screen passes, as we all know, and the short passes because we play the zone. I think that weapon against us goes away when you're down by 13 points in the middle and getting to the end of the third quarter, and you start having to think about time and you have to start attacking the Jets downfield. And I think that's why you're going to start to see a lot better situations for our pass rush to go and get the quarterback.
Yeah, most definitely. And I've seen some people making bold predictions. I saw one bold prediction that Sauce Gardner would have 8 interceptions this year. I don't know if we had 8 interceptions as a defense last year. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
So
the problem is
go ahead.
Sauce Gardner going to even be targeted 8 times this year?
No. That's my first thought as far as that goes. But then again, if the other team has to throw the ball down the field that much more, then I can see a situation where that happens. But yeah, there's so many different ways to look at this defense. It really just comes down to how optimistic versus pessimistic are you. I mean, you could say the defense had elite health last year, and they absolutely did. And on the other hand, you could say, well, look at the defense. The offense put them in terrible situations. There were many times when the opposing team's offense would start a drive, around midfield or in Jets territory, and the Jets defense had to stop them to prevent them from scoring. And many times they did that. And then the other team punts and they pin the Jets inside the 20. And then our terrible offense can't move the ball down the field, punt away. And eventually the team starts to get some field goals or whatever. They start to pull ahead. I mean, yeah, it's just a very frustrating rhythm watching a lot of Jets games where the defense was doing what they could, but ultimately, I feel like Eric Mangini was the first one who talked about complementary football, and it's since become very cliche, but it really is true. The offense helps the defense helps the offense. I would throw in special teams, but as we go on with every year, the special teams role diminishes more and more and more, to the point where they don't even need to have a freaking kickoff return anymore. I mean, I used to wonder, what's the battle going to be like for the return job? Who's going to return the kicks? Who's going to return the punts? The kick return is basically obsolete at this point, and it's a little bit of a disappointment to me because that takes some of the fun and the excitement out, because let's think about it. I mean, some of the best Jets teams we've seen in my lifetime, in your lifetime, anybody who's like 30, 40 up years old, who remembers those 90s Jets, early 2000s Jets, the special teams sometimes was the best part of the Jets. It really was. When Westhoff was coaching and we had all these dynamic returners, I mean, sometimes the special teams had a better chance to score points than the offense did. No exaggeration. And hey, Harry, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Yes, John B. Super chats do cut the line. Thank you for pointing that out.
Is there a super chat?
No, John B. just wanted us to point that out again, since
okay.
since we are a poverty podcast. So yes, super chats do cut the line. We don't have any fancy umbrellas to give away or stuff like that, but we still appreciate it.
Well, there'll actually be some giveaways coming up. We're getting closer to the point where we're gonna start having those fun guests. So I don't want to jinx it, but we're getting closer. We're getting very close to. There's a couple of names being thrown at me. We're gonna see who comes first.
All right. Look forward to that. All right. So let's give us some details on the pasta. Is this homemade? Is this from a restaurant? What do we got? What do we got in there right now? That's what everybody really wants to know.
My wife is celiac, so the pasta is gluten-free. But we buy a very good brand. It's very good. And we believe that I've noticed over the years that it's the sauce that makes the big difference. So we get Vincent's tomato sauce shipped, like we ordered on Amazon.
All right.
Because that's the best. If you're not going to make homemade sauce, that's the best sauce that you can get in a jar. We think. It's called Vincent's. Okay. So it's spicy. It's yummy. And then we use a Pecco Romano or whatever, we do that. We put it in the blender to grind it.
The Pecorino Romano, yes.
Romano.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I made some baked ziti the other night with Italian sausage and eggplant. Even put a little bit of red wine in there to help reduce down the onions. It's it's a good dish. Plenty of cheese in there also, but yeah, that bakes up nice and crispy. It's a very good pasta dish, and with my appetite, maybe about 5 servings. Could definitely take some of that down for sure. But yeah, it hit the spot after working until 8:00 tonight, no doubt about it. So, S.I. Thompson, really, let's not talk about food. You know what? We could take like 1 minute food breaks, and then we'll switch it back over. But sometimes we need a little bit of a break. But hey, Chad, if you have a topic for us, if there's a question you have for us that you'd like us to talk about that's Jet related, football related, put it down there in the chat. We'd be more than happy to entertain your curiosity tonight, especially when there's you're searching deep for OTA news to talk about.
Yeah, look, no news is good news.
That's exactly right.
Meaning the my fear as a Jets fan always is anytime you see a recent news alert or something and you see Jets, you're like waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're waiting for the bad news. And right now it seems like everything is chill, knock on wood. Everything is chill and everybody is fine. So, and not only that, but all of our injured guys that we weren't sure about all have good prognosis, right? Like that, they're all predicted to be ready. I saw a video today of Breece Hall, not just running. I saw Breece Hall making cuts today.
Cuts. Oh, yes. Connor Hughes giving like 5,000 Jets fans a heart attack in a span of 2 minutes, saying Jets running back Breece Hall cutting #Jets. And pretty much half the fan base reading that thought the Jets were cutting Breece Hall. And I'm like, God. Connor, you have to watch how you word those tweets. Not that he would ever respond to me. He wouldn't. But I was like, is Breece Hall cutting the Jets? Is that what happened? But it's just, but it was definitely good to see that. No doubt about it. But again, this is not a situation where he needs to be rushed. And, the fact that the Jets were thinking as hard as they were about, bringing in a running back, I still could not believe that they were thinking about Jahmyr Gibbs with their first choice as running back. I mean, it seems as though that was a real consideration. I don't want to believe that was true, that they would actually target a running back that high, because that tells me that they're a little bit worried about Breece's health. So, even though it's a very good thing to see Breece working the way he does, of course he's saying all the right things. Of course he's going to say all the right things. Hey, you know who else said all the right things last year? J.K. Dobbins. And he never really came back right. Now, not all ACL injuries are made the same. We know this. One person's recovery is not the next person's recovery. But we can't go in with the expectation that he's going to be ready to go at 100%. So that begs the question, do you trust Carter, Johnson, and Israel to carry the load between the three of them? And the fact of the matter is, I feel okay with it, but I think if Breece was healthy, put it this way, if Breece was healthy, I would be starting off this offense, running it through him for the first couple of weeks while Rodgers really starts to get comfortable with these new receivers. Because I feel you can build your offense around Breece Hall. And as much as I trust Rodgers, it's his first time working with a lot of these guys. And I don't just mean the receivers. I'm talking about the offensive line. So early on, when you have a lot of big games against a lot of good teams, you got to hit the freaking ground running. We're not starting with Houston. We're not starting with Atlanta. I wish we were, but we're not. So I think that the Jets having a good run game from the beginning is going to be a really freaking big deal. So it's gonna really matter. And if Breece isn't ready to go, then I think all the reason more to consider Dalvin Cook if you don't think that the combination of Carter, Israel, and Bam are going to be able to carry the load for the first couple of weeks.
And it's hard to know because I know Vincenzo's not a fan of a running back room after Breece Hall.
I've noticed.
But I got to say again, if you watch the way they played, I'm not saying they're great running backs. They're not Breece Hall. To me, there's a level of running back where you're not bad, you're not great, you're good. And what that means, but when you're just good, it means you're as good as your offensive line. You're as good as the system. You're as good as the situation. So you have to understand, if you rewatch the games for the first 8 games of the year, there was nothing wrong with Michael Carter. There was nothing wrong with Bam Knight. Bam Knight, when he came in, actually did very well.
Oh, yeah.
The problem started when we were depleted. We had no blocking. They were stacking the box. So the only running back that would have a chance in this league, if you watch the last 7 games of the year, the only running back that would have a chance is the elite running backs. The running backs that are so great that even with lousy blocking and box stacking, they could still find a way. And all good running backs that you see in the league that are good running backs are not the same. That's what makes them backups. That's why they're RB2, RB3. That's why they're not Breece Hall. That's why they're not the starting running back, because they're not good enough that if you don't block well for them and the other team is stacking the box and not respecting your quarterback, that they're going to be able to do a lot. We saw that happen. But I also saw them as very competent running backs when our offensive line was healthy and we were doing any other kind of attack, when we were getting any kind of level of play that was respectable from our quarterback. We saw that, we watched the games. I watched a game, the first game against Buffalo. Michael Carter had some huge runs during that game. He had some great runs. So I'm just saying, it's not that they suck. They don't suck. They're just not elite running backs. What we need this year more than anything, knock on wood, is for our offensive line to stay healthy. And now we got it, a real quarterback to just play like a real quarterback. And that's going to change everything for all of our running backs. And the scariest thing is, what can Breece Hall do with Aaron Rodgers and a healthy offensive line after what he did last year? Crazy.
And not only that, imagine what he could do coming out of the backfield, catching passes. I mean, he was able to make some big pass plays with Zach Wilson throwing him the football. Imagine Rodgers looking for him, running down the sideline, running a flat out of the backfield. Imagine what some of those plays could look like. So
insane.
Yeah, but you know what? Rodgers likes a more simple offense, and by that I mean not a lot of motion, not a lot of frills. You don't even need a whole lot of plays. It's like, here's what we have. You know what we're going to do, but still you got to stop it. And he has and here's the thing. I cannot remember the last time the Jets offensive line was this potentially deep. I'm not saying it's as top heavy. I'm not saying we got Nick and Brick on there, but I feel like they have at least a competent backup at every single position. If you really look at that, I mean, let's think about it. At tackle, you've got Brown, Becton, Turner, Warren, Max Mitchell. That's just a tackle. Guard, you've got Tomlinson, AVT, Schweitzer, Cologne. Center, you've got McGovern, you've got Tippmann. That is a 10 or 11 deep offensive line. And probably not all of them are going to make the roster, barring an injury. But I'll tell you what, one injury is not going to kill this offensive line. And that's what I feel good about the offense. That's one of the reasons I'm excited. Because here's the thing, when you don't have the depth, like the Jets have not had for so many years, there was so many situations where one injury could cripple the team. And there were even critics of Joe Douglas, even during last season, who said Joe Douglas didn't address the offensive line. It was laughable. That criticism to me was just ignorant. It was ignorant. It wasn't even ignorant. It was ignorant. Okay. Because it just showed a complete lack of, number one, there's only so many really good offensive linemen in the league anyway, because if an offensive lineman's a backup and he has an opportunity to start, he's going to leave, because it seems to be getting harder and harder to develop offensive linemen nowadays. I don't know why that is, but it seems to be a fact of life. But I felt like there were so many even preseason games over the years where the Jets would put in their backup offensive linemen and the quarterback would get pulverized by the opposing team's defense. It was frustrating. It was infuriating to watch. And this goes back to the days of Rex, Herman. It was absolutely terrible to watch. But I have some legit faith in this offensive line. It's just a matter of plugging the right guys into the right spots. But it definitely does not fall on Joe Douglas. And I really like the addition of Keith Carter. I think he's going to really play a big role with developing this line. And I think there's a big reason they hired him was to develop some of these players and also be bad cop for guys like Mekhi Becton, who might need a good kick in the ass once in a while. That's one reason I think the hiring of Keith Carter makes so much sense. Hey, Boogie, good to see you, man. What game this season you guys are positive the Jets will win when the experts wrote off as a loss already? So I guess what he's asking is, what is the game we're positive that we're going to win that the experts are considering a loss?
Yeah. Well, I want to start by saying,
that's a tricky one. Go ahead.
First, I'm not positive about any game. Because I just been watching football too long. So I just want to change the wording. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm positive that you're going to win any particular game. Just because it's football. And, when you start thinking like that, if the players ever start thinking like that, that's when you lose. But
correct.
If you want to talk about a game that I think people and experts think we're going to lose, where they're underestimating us, where I think that we're more of a favorite than people are giving us credit for, I'm going to start by saying the Cowboys playing in Dallas. I think that you'll see most people are going to have them as a line favorite, because every year the Cowboys are super, super hyped. This is the year, this is the year, this is the year. And I think that I believe that the Jets are the favorite to win that game. I'm not terrified of that game. I think that's a very winnable game for us. I think the experts are wrong. I think that Dak Prescott's going to have a very hard time against our defense. I think we're going to do a really good job in shutting them down. And I believe that Aaron Rodgers just is a whole new dynamic, and Micah Parsons, they got some good guys that we're going to have to be wary of. But I think that we got, I just think that from watching Dallas, they're inconsistent. They always seem to disappoint from their expectations at the beginning of every year. They're always talking about Super Bowl, and they always seem to disappoint. And I think we're going to go in there and we're going to punch them in the face.
I think that's a very good scenario. And here's the thing. I think a lot of experts have the Jets winning 12 games, 13 games, something like that. There's a couple haters out there, but when a lot of these people are only predicting the Jets to lose maybe 4 games, 5 games, it kind of narrows it down. Nolte, that's kind of where I was going. I really think Philly is going to be as big of a challenge this year as we're going to face. When you see the quarterback, when you see the pass rush, when you see a lot of different weapons and an excellent offensive line that could, potentially neutralize our pass rush. You got a very good 1-2 tandem at cornerback, to help cover those receivers. That's going to be a fight. But we talked a lot last year about jinxes that the Jets were trying to overcome, and they did overcome a few things. I mean, winning some games in the division, different things like that. Well, there's a couple things that I want to see the Jets do this year. Beat New England for the first time, I think, since the Reagan administration. Okay, do that. Beat Philly for the first time in the history of this franchise. Make the playoffs. Those 3 things. Without those 3 things, obviously New England and making the playoffs are more important than Philly. But I'm tired of every couple of years playing Philly and just having to be reminded that the Jets have never beaten them. I'm just a little bit sick of it. It's like, it shouldn't bother me, but it's like, can we just get that? It's like a gnat that we can't squash or something. It keeps escaping. It's like, get out of here. So it would be very good to just knock that out. I will tell you one game that I think is going to be very interesting, and that's the Charger game. Because we could talk about the Chargers. Well, they're a paper team and whatnot. The Chargers are a darn good regular season team. They got some legitimate talent over there. That's going to be a very, very interesting game. Plus, it's going to be that's a Monday Night Football game at home. And I got to tell you, I'm glad we have that game at home as opposed to on the road. I wouldn't want to be playing that game indoors. So I think that Rodgers-Herbert matchup is going to be that's the game I don't think a lot of people are talking about, but I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah. Hey, look, we have a lot of tough games. And what I'm trying to focus on is what I'm thinking about is are a very good team now. We have to get used to that as Jets fans. Historically, when you look at our schedule, you could just point to a lot of these games. Oh, we're going to lose to Buffalo.
That's
we're
a
going to
loss.
lose Kansas City.
Loss.
We're going to lose to Eagles. That's a loss. That's a loss. So we're going to definitely lose to Miami at least once. Oh, we can't beat the Patriots. Maybe we get lucky and win one. I mean, look, that's what we traditionally feel. That's what we think. That's what it's been like for years. But the reality is we're going to be a lot. I don't think sometimes, like you saw me at the beginning of the show, I'm digesting it and realizing it, saying, holy shit, we are that team now. We're the team that people are going to say, oh shit, we got to play the Jets. I don't know if we can win that game. But we as Jet fans got to get used to that because it's something that we're not accustomed to.
No, we haven't been in that spot in years. And here's the thing, even during, the Rex era, there was always the Patriots. When was the last time we feel like we were the team? We may not even be right now. We may not be. We're in the mix. But when was the last time that the Jets were the definitive best team just in their division? When was the last time? I mean, do we have to go all the way back to 98? Do we have to go back a whole quarter century? It very well may be. I really think it pretty much has to be that. So I don't know if we really know how to handle that mentally. The biggest thing that I said this last year to you, I said this to Green Bee, and I said this to other people. Let's enjoy the ride right now because we are on the way up. I felt this way 12 months ago. We're on the way up. I didn't expect much. I felt the Jets would be in a playoff mix until the end. I just didn't think they were going to make it in the playoffs. And it turns out they were out just a little bit before that, before the season basically went to hell. But, being a sports fan, it's about taking the ride. If the only time you're going to be happy is when your team is absolutely great, fantastic, at the absolute top, it's not realistic. I mean, for crying out loud, you and I, our teams we've seen one championship in 3 decades, basically. I mean, in 4 decades, it's been absolutely ridiculous. The it's like a reflection of life. You're going to see disappointment more often than you're probably going to see success. So when you're in this position, when you can see success on the horizon, when you have a legitimate chance to get past all this adversity, all the crap, all the name calling, all the insults, all the pitying that we as Jets fans together have taken for all these years, taken every day, taken every moment, taken everything that everybody says, because we have a year where we are not just full of blind hope, but we have a chance to be legitimately excited that we can see a great season. And it hasn't been that way in many, many years. Take this in, because it doesn't always come around. You know what, Barney? That's a very fair perspective. The Jets are always the underdog. And you know what the truth is to me? I got to be honest with you, man. Just between you and me, the Jets are still kind of the underdog. You know why? They're the Jets. As long as there's still a Mahomes, there's still an Allen, there's still a Burrow, the Jets might be in the mix, but they ain't going to be nobody's favorites. Not many people's favorites. There'll be a few people picking it, but by no means. But you know, there's a lot of people who are thinking the Jets are going to be first, but there's a lot of people who are thinking the Jets are going to be fourth in this division. Jets got to prove it. Just got to go prove it.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt at the end of the day, I have a great feeling. Someone was asking me, they were like, I was on a channel where people were talking trash, and and they were like, "What's your response?" I said, "Well, I don't talk trash. Like, I really don't. I don't talk trash. I don't get into it. You'll never see me on Twitter. I'll call a Miami fan like an ass when they're being an ass." And saying, "You don't know what you're talking about, you're obnoxious." But that's not trash talking. I don't go to Bills fans or Patriots fans or Miami fans and say, "We're going to beat your butt. We're going to kick your ass. We're better than you." Like, I don't do that. And the reason I don't do that is because I've learned over the years, until the season starts, you don't know what you got. Yeah. Because I've seen plenty of teams with high expectations do nothing. And I've seen plenty of teams with very low expectations do a lot. The reality is, I'm not going to talk trash. And just like you're saying, we haven't done anything yet. We've done nothing. So am I excited? Yes. Do I believe we have the potential to be a great team and do amazing things? Yes. Am I going to start running my mouth and act like we've already done it? No. We've got a lot to prove. Yeah. And we have to wait for it to happen before we start trash talking or whatever, and acting like walking and strutting around like we're something special, because we haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, I for me personally, I see fans of other teams go to other teams' Facebook pages and Twitter pages and whatnot and follow them and then respond to them, and I'm just like, why? I don't want to do that. I mean, some people try to get me in these groups. It's like fans of the AFC East. I'm like, I don't want to be engaged with a bunch of fans of the other teams in my own division. That I personally don't. Now, put it this way: if somebody puts out a dumbass post about my team, I'll respond to them. I'm not going to start the trouble, but I don't mind ending the trouble. That's pretty much how that's my modus operandi.
And I'm not doing it with fake promises. I'm just like, when someone says the Jets, Aaron Rodgers has had it, stick a fork in him, he's no good. Jet fans are smoking crack if they think he's still good. I'll just give them the facts. I'll say, really? Because in the last 3 years, he's had 2 MVP seasons. And if you watch him last year and what you could argue is one of his worst seasons, he was still pretty damn good.
Bro, I was, before I came on, I decided I get all these podcasts. Sometimes I get these bonus podcasts sent over to me, right? And I played this one podcast from, it was off the Odyssey thing. I'm not going to mention the name of the podcast, but because, with the WFA and stuff, you got like these random podcasts that you could check out. And this one guy, he had a podcast. It was like one question for every team in the AFC East. You know what his question for the Jets was? Is Aaron Rodgers still good? Not is Aaron Rodgers still elite. Not is Aaron Rodgers still an MVP candidate. Not is Aaron Rodgers still a top quarterback. Is he good? That was the bar that this jabroni was setting. Yes, I'm invoking the Iron Sheik again, and I do it with no apologies. Okay, come on. Is he still good. He was in an offense that he did not want to be in. He did not like working with LaFleur's. He did not like the motion offense. He wanted to have more say in the offense, and he didn't have it. He wasn't happy there for a while. And like you said, 2 seasons ago and 3 seasons ago, he was the MVP of the National freaking Football League. So to me, I'm not worried about. I got a bunch of other questions with this team before I question: is Aaron Rodgers still good? Just good. Please. I'd sign up for good right now.
It's so extreme how people think. It's like because he didn't have the year last year, and there were reasons for it. And even if there weren't, then he's done. Stick a fork in him. No, look at his numbers. Look how he played. Watch the games. He's still really special. And it's is he elite? That's a question. It's a reasonable question to say, is he still elite? Fine. You could ask that question. Is he still one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL? Ask that question. But ask this. If you're really paying attention and you know this team like we do, did the New York Jets need an elite quarterback last year? Or did we just need a good quarterback last year? A
good quarterback at the very least, a good quarterback would have had the Jets in the playoff race going into the last week of the season. No doubt about it.
Yeah, well, no question about it. I mean, and that's even with the offensive line injuries. Yeah. Even with the offensive line injuries, I believe it. I think because there were, even in those games we were losing during that streak, our defense was keeping us in the game. We just needed something. And we just couldn't get it. We had, obviously Mike White getting hurt like he always does. And I don't blame him as a person. It's not personal. I'm not angry at him. It's not his fault. He doesn't want to get hurt. We watched what Buffalo did to him. I'd have broken ribs too if Milano came at me like that and hit me square like that. I mean, so it's not Mike White's fault, but I mean, he got massacred, right? And then you got Zach, who's just so inconsistent. And when he was bad, he was not an NFL quarterback. I mean,
he gave us the glance. Yeah, at his worst, I would imagine that's probably what Christian Hackenberg would have looked like if he had actually stepped on the field for the Jets.
It was that bad. It was that bad.
It really
against
was.
Seattle. Oh my God! Against Seattle, against Jacksonville, he was so bad. It was so brutal. He was so brutally bad.
The games eventually became non-competitive. By the end of the season, the Jets were not a competitive football team. And part of me wants to blame the coaches, but on the other hand, when you see how the offensive line just got beat down, got demoralized, the defense was not going to win these games by themselves. The only way the Jets were going to win the games is if the defense and special teams were scoring touchdowns, and that wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't. And, hey, Tony, we finally saw Chris Streveler. And you know what? We saw what Chris Streveler was. Tim Tebow with a better beard. That's basically what he was.
What was amazing about Streveler is he matched Zach's entire output in offense in 2 drives.
That is damning. That is damning.
I mean, it was, and we saw he wasn't a very impressive passer, but I mean, it was crazy. The point was, if they would have went to Streveler sooner, we may have won that game. Because
it's not impossible to say that. It is.
They didn't have an answer for it.
I mean, put it this way: I think the Jacksonville coach he would have been smart enough to figure out how to adjust to what Streveler was doing. But the fact, again, I still can't go back. I still can't get over that one pass that he attempted to CJ Uzomah, where there was not a Jacksonville defender in the same zip code as him. Yeah. And Uzomah basically had to dive to make the catch, and he got tagged. And basically that was down. If he had caught the ball on the go, he would have taken that ball to the house.
But at least he saw him and threw him the ball. I got tape of Zach with Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims is running up the field alone and uncovered, and Zach is looking right at him and doesn't throw the ball. That's one play of all the plays that Zach ever made, even the crazy, ridiculous one where he didn't get it out of bounds and it was intercepted. Of all the crazy plays, there's nothing to me worse than that play. If you watch it on all 22, Denzel Mims was wide open, and Zach Wilson, you could see his eyes was staring right at him, and he didn't throw the ball.
Now, which game was this? Who was this against? You have to
Oh, it
refresh
was
my
one of
memory.
those games near the end. It was one of those games near
Near
the
the
end.
this past season?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was near the end in the last 4 games, that one of the ones where he played.
So like Detroit or Seattle, one of those teams?
Yeah. I don't think, because I was going to say New England the second game, but I don't think it was. I think it may have been Detroit. It was like one of those games. I have to ask Green Bean.
I can see it being Detroit. That
I'm
game was
sure.
just downright. That game was
Yeah,
infuriating.
there was a game where Mims was wide open, like alone. in the middle of it.
And we talked about how many times. Same thing for Elijah Moore. There were many times when he was running open and he wasn't getting the ball.
Yeah, so
many times. I know. Italy's here. Hey, good to see you, man. I think who else just came by? Chiefs Live is here too. We got the KC. Hey, Chiefs. I'm waiting for some of that Oklahoma Joe's barbecue, man. Just send it to both of us. We're waiting on it. It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Yeah. So I mean, we I mean, it was really bad. And I'm not saying, look, everybody knows I don't hide it. I was huge. I was the happiest guy when we drafted Zach Wilson. I believed in him as much as anyone, and I was excited whenever he did well. But I can't lie and say what I'm watching is not true. Like, I can't be in denial of that. I mean, he had some moments, but man, when he was bad, he was bad.
It's one of those things. I mean, how often are New York Jets fans like in complete agreement on anything? There's really only 2 things: Adam Gase being horrible, right, and pretty much, and Zach Wilson just needing to be replaced. It really came down to that level. Unless you're Jets forever, you just could not defend that anymore.
I would say there was 1% of the Jets fan base that were Zach truthers. Now it felt like more because they don't shut up in the chat, Jets forever, and there was a couple of others. The Utah Jets fan or whatever his name was, the BYU Jet fan.
BYU, him. Yeah, that was Zach's dad, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and on Twitter it was defense wins championships. It was that, like, there's a few people that you just couldn't get it through their head. Like, they just couldn't seem to understand it.
These are people who, once Zach leaves the Jets, they'll become a fan of that team. They're Zach Wilson fans as opposed to Jets fans. Big difference. Yeah. Big difference there.
Look. I hope that Zach could beat the odds and do the impossible and do what's very rarely done and turn it all around and reach his ceiling and be a great quarterback in the NFL. If it's for the Jets, hell yeah, I want that to happen. But I'm not going to lie. That doesn't happen often.
No, in this case, I can't think of somebody who would have taken 4 or 5 years to start putting everything together as a quarterback. It might take a few years, but I mean, when you have this low of a level of performance, to elevate it that much, I mean, come on. It's one of those things you cannot count on it. Best case scenario is that Aaron Rodgers is here for about 2 years. And then the Jets draft somebody along the way, and they compete with Zach for a starting job. That's basically it. Jets mess. I defended LaFleur for a little while. I gotta say that. But the more I hear about the way he was communicating with people, and the more that I feel like he did not use some of this personnel as well as he could, particularly tight ends, I can understand more and more why they chose to make a change. Put it this way, if Michael LaFleur is still here, is Aaron Rodgers here as quarterback? I think the answer is absolutely not, because Aaron Rodgers did not want to be near Michael LaFleur's brother anymore. Why would he want to go from one LaFleur to another LaFleur? So to me, you know what? You can make certain defenses of Michael LaFleur. If you'd like to do that, you're more than welcome to. That's fine. But his communication level, he just wasn't ready for this job. And I wish him well with the Rams. I sincerely do. I hope he does well with that team. I hope he does. But he was not ready to be an OC yet. And the best thing that could happen to LaFleur is he uses this time as a learning experience, because he just didn't do his job as well as he could have. And I'm telling you right now, if LaFleur had done his job well, there is no way Aaron Rodgers is quarterbacking the Jets right now.
I think, yeah, I think Mike LaFleur could potentially be a very good offensive coordinator. Potentially. He's in a great situation now. He's not calling the plays. He's with a Super Bowl coach. He could
Yep.
learn tons from this coach. But for him to come in with a rookie head coach, and his first opportunity is with a rookie defensive-minded head coach, you're right. He lost the locker room. He lost the locker room. He didn't know how to connect with them. He lost them, and like it's not. He's a young guy, and a lot of his plays were really good. He's super smart as far as the playbook is concerned. Like, he designs good plays. My problem with him was definitely the locker room. He lost the players, and then secondly, he just wasn't a great situational coach. Like, he'd call great plays and everything would be great, and then he gets into the red zone, and it's like, or he was the worst 2nd down and 5 play caller in the history of the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Every time we made it 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5, every time we lost yards on 2nd down. Every time.
It's like
Every
2nd and 3.
time.
2nd and 3. Let's run a reverse, right?
Right. Every time. The other teams must have been laughing. They're like, this guy, we're watching it on tape week after week. He never changed it up. How about on 2nd and 3, just doing the same kind of play you call on 1st down? Just do a 5-yard play and get the 1st down.
You never see a quarterback sneak or anything like that. I mean, you just wouldn't see that. Now, was there a lack of execution? I mean, you do have to factor in the fact that some of these injuries happen. That makes it more difficult for the offense to. There you go, Radio Shack. Yeah. Next week, I'm going to wear my Circuit City shirt. We'll work on that one. We'll work on pulling that off. But
I worked at Radio Shack when I was in grad school.
Really? Okay. What was it? I'll do a quick side question.
Like the Caesar Bay Shazar. What is it? Bizarre.
Caesar Bay Shazar?
Bizarre, whatever. The market, the flea market.
Bizarre. It's a bizarre.
Off the Belt Parkway.
Let's do a quick side question. Let me ask you a quick side question. What was the first job you ever had?
The first job I ever had was making dough in my best friend's pizzeria.
Oh, you've told us some little stories about that before. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was like 13, 14, he used to pick us up. Dad, Godfather used to pick us up, me and my best friend, his dad, pick us up. We'd be in the basement. I learned to push dough in the pans and the oil. It was the worst job of making dough where you get your hands all gross. And my dad smelled surgical supplies, so my dad gave me surgical gloves. So I beat the system. I had latex gloves and did it. And it ended up everyone in that pizzeria, my best friend and his dad for years, used latex gloves when they made pizza and everything so the oil wouldn't mess up their skin. So that's a whole nother story. But anyway, he would pay us $5, the both of us. This was 85. He'd pay us $5 every time we made the dough. Sometimes we'd make the dough 5 times a week, and we had a cup that that used those paper cups you used to, like, with the covers that used to make the marinara sauce, and like that you put marinara sauce in, and we used to keep it in the ceiling of the basement. And one day it got up to like over $200 or something. It was a ton of money.
Wow, what did the money go towards, I wonder?
I'm trying to remember. I think for me, I think it
besides drugs.
Knowing me, it was either albums at Sam Goody or sneakers, Nikes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, my first gig was working at St. Louis Bread Company, which is now Panera. This was so long ago, it was still St. Louis Bread Company because that company was based out of St. Louis, Missouri. In fact, if you go to downtown St. Louis, it's still called St. Louis Bread Company. And I was a cashier. This was during high school days. And I remember one time this lasted about 30 days. And I remember, so one time they asked me to scoop in these cream cheeses. We had like 8, 9, 10 different types of cream cheese. They wanted me to scoop them in the to-go containers, right? So we had 3 different managers. This one manager, this very butch-looking lady. I mean, like crew cut. I mean, like, chin down about here, pretty much. Tough-looking lady. She comes up to me and says, "Okay, Adam, I want you to start scooping the cream cheeses in the to-go containers." So I'm doing this for 15 minutes, and she finally comes by, sees what I'm doing. She's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're supposed to level the scoop before you put the cream cheese in the containers." She's like yelling at me in front of the whole store. And I yelled back, "You didn't tell me how to do it." I mean, and she didn't. She didn't give me instructions. She sat me down that day and said, I could have smacked you right in the face. You're actually telling me that. Wow.
Wow.
And she said, you know what? I don't think you're really good at working with people. You really need to be in accounting or something where you're not dealing with people. I'm like, you have worked with me for one shift because this woman was never there. You've worked with me one shift, maybe two, and you're becoming my freaking career counselor already? So 2 days later, I was gone. I did not want to be there anymore if I was going to be treated that way. So.
And now you're showing her, look at you on YouTube entertaining all these people.
Yeah, although I will say the free pastries at the end of the night, we donate some to the homeless shelters, and whatever was left, we take those home. So I did miss the free pastries; those were pretty freaking amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing that their radio is still going. Man, it was a crazy company, man. It was a crazy company. But I'll tell you, working in that location, L&B Pizza delivered there. They were close enough that they delivered there. So we used to order L&B. We'd order a half tray, and just eat L&B pizza. We did it all the time, and that was a great part of that job.
What about Brennan and Carr? Did Brennan Carr, Rolling Roaster, did they do some deliveries also for you?
No, back then the places like that didn't deliver. You know, and I know with DoorDash these days.
Good thing there wasn't DoorDash.
The only places that delivered, in my memory, for the most part, was pizza and Chinese food. You know, like you can. That's fair. Yeah. You can deliver, and a lot of Chinese food didn't even deliver. I remember specifically that we used to go pick it up most of the time because some of the little places didn't even deliver. But they were such neighborhood type places; it wasn't a big deal. My dad would drive 2 minutes, down some Brooklyn streets, down our avenue, and just one of us would run in and grab it. But it wasn't like that. So Brennan Carr, Roller Roaster, I didn't get to really enjoy those places until my friends were driving. Gotcha. First of my friends got a car, and then we were able to start going to those places. And Brennan Carr, we didn't go to that much. It was hard to get in, wait for a table. It's a little more pricey for poor high school and college kids. But Roller Roaster was a big, we used to hit that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, my dad would take me to Roll and Roaster, because we lived in New Jersey. My grandparents lived in Brooklyn. He grew up in Brooklyn, so once in a while he'd take me over there. But yeah, we never went to Brennan and Carr. I still have not been there yet. So hopefully one day, but yeah, it just hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I definitely remember. The funny thing is, we love Roll and Roaster, and the whole gimmick is putting cheese on everything, the fries, the sandwiches. My dad's lactose intolerant, so he couldn't do the cheese. So it was a little bit weird that he would take me over there, but we pretty much raid the pickle bar. We would take that whole tray with the pickles, half of it would be gone because of us, because we would just run right through the pickles. Hey, David, good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I don't think L&B is cash only anymore. When we went, I think I paid with credit card.
I don't think so. No, it's not. I don't think it's cash only.
Yeah, I think I paid with credit card. Green Bean got the pizza. I went on a different line. When we got your veal cutlet. I went to the restaurant counter and got, the outdoor counter and got an egg veal cutlet Parmesan Hero. It was so funny because Green Bean was walking by me. He saw me on that line. He knows me. He knows I'm a foodie. And he's like, "What are you up to? How come you're not getting on the pizza line?" And I said, "I'm getting the veal Parmesan Hero." And I said, "And I'll be looking for a partner." And right away he said, "I'm in." And I said, "Okay." So I ripped, the Hero's cut in half. He gets half the Hero. I get 2 square slices and half of the veal cut. It was a great deal for both of us. We both got to enjoy both.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And like I told you, I'm going to be in Philadelphia in about 2 weeks. I'm taking a weekend up in Philadelphia. This has been planned for a little bit, and I'm pointing out my many, many food adventures. But I got to tell you, there's quite a few restaurants that I'm looking at that are cash only. And it's pretty crazy because, a lot of places you go to stadiums or arenas and you can't use cash anymore. It's cash free. And there's other restaurants where if you use cash, they might give you a little bit of a discount. It's pretty crazy how it works. But yeah, when I take the train from Virginia up to Philadelphia, I got to make sure I got a few Thomas Jeffersons in my pocket there. So
yeah, the best pizza in Philadelphia, in my opinion, is Angelo's. And you need cash.
Here's the thing with Angelo's. So I've got them on my list, but I'm thinking about getting them for a hoagie like a sandwich, because I think with the pizza you can't get like a slice. You got to get like a huge square pizza.
You gotta get
That's the problem. It's just me. I can't do that. So not unless I'd have to beg outside. Well, one slice, please. I'll hold like a cardboard sign. One slice for Watsu K99.
You just make sure you go to the terminal market right across the street from the convention center, and you go to the back. You go to the back and you find those Amish people who make those pretzels. Oh my God, they're so good.
Miller's Twist.
Dude,
is it
those
Miller's?
pretzels. I think
Dude,
so, yeah.
My hotel is 1 block away from the Reading Terminal Market, and that was not by accident. I can assure you.
Dude, those pretzels are like freaking heaven.
Do you know what's right next door to my hotel? This is dangerous. You know what's literally next door to my hotel and open till 2 a.m? Bonchon Korean fried chicken. That is dangerous. Can you imagine a 1:30 Korean fried chicken craving? Oh my gosh. It's going to be a day. I don't know if I'm going to video this. Like, I don't know what I'm going to put on my channel because I'm going there for Mets Phillies. God knows what that's going to be like, but hopefully I'll survive. But I got to do some video stuff on this. I just don't. I'm wondering what I'm going to do. But yeah, I got so many food destinations in mind, man. I'm so excited. I really am.
And
David asked if we've had Grimaldi's. Yeah, I've had Grimaldi's a couple of times. I got to tell you, I really like it. I like the coal-fired pizza a lot. Grimaldi's is good.
Love the coal-fired pizza. I love the
Yeah.
coal-fired pizza that's in New Haven, though. I love the way they do it. I really do. I prefer that. Like Sally's a Pizza. Geez, so good, so good.
That'll be September for me. End of September, I'm heading up that way. I'm going to be. I'm going up there for my college reunion up in Boston. It'll be. You know what the timing of this is, right? I'm going up there the last weekend of September, 1 weekend after Jets versus Patriots. This is going to be because everyone knows what a big Jet fan I am, right? So it's going to be an interesting dynamic spending a couple of days up in the Boston area. I have not set foot in the Boston area since 2004. I like Southern New England. I like Connecticut. I like Rhode Island. Providence and Newport are both really good towns. I like both, especially if you want some good Italian food. Go to Providence and go to Federal Hill. You will find some great, great places. But Boston to me has been like forbidden territory. But I'm planning on heading up, and I expect that to be it'll be very, very interesting. And it sure as hell better be coming off a Jets victory. That's all I can tell you.
So DFF1234 says, what chance 1 to 100 do we have of making the Super Bowl? 10% or higher?
Okay.
Well, I'm going to say I think that we are one of 8 teams. I think that the top 2 teams have a little bit better chance. So right away, you're talking about around 12%. And a little bit less. I'd say 10% is a good estimate. Like I kind of feel like 10%. If we were in the NFC,
oh gosh,
a little bit higher. But I would say 10%. I would say 10% is realistic. It's reasonable to say 10%. I think there's a chance after the first 6 games, we're going to be like, holy shit, we're the favorite. Like I think it could happen.
Yeah.
Like I think we might come out and blow people away. I think we might be putting up 30+ points, dominating on deep. There's a chance we're going to be spectacular. But right now, without seeing anything, without proving it, I'll sit there and I'll say around 10%.
Let's break this down. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go through each AFC team and say realistic chance to make the Super Bowl? Not a realistic chance. So like yes or no, just realistic Super Bowl contender. Let's just roll right through it. Let's start. Let's go with each division. Buffalo, we would agree. Yes. Fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Jets, realistic chance of making the Super Bowl? I think we could say yes to. Say yes? I would say yes. Okay. Miami, what do you Okay, what would you say about Miami?
No, I mean, okay. Is there a chance? Yes. A realistic chance, like they're one of the top 8 teams, or like would it not be shocking? It would be shocking. I mean, I have no problem seeing Miami as a playoff team, but I don't see them as a threat to be a Super Bowl team. Not with Tua at quarterback. Who's a tackle away from being concussed.
And I like Vic Fangio being added on their defense. I think their defense will take a step up, but I just don't know if the offense has enough. As great as they have the best 1-2 punch receiver, but I don't trust Tua. I don't trust the running game.
Look, I think they're going to be very good. I think they're going to be very dangerous. I'm not taking them lightly, but I don't see them as a Super Bowl team. No.
I think they could win a playoff game, but I think they could get to maybe the divisional round. I could say New England. I would say no. Would we agree on that? Okay, so that's two teams. All right, all right. Let's go to the North. So Baltimore, realistic chance?
Yeah,
tough one.
Yeah,
I feel like you can. I feel like you can never count out Baltimore.
I think that's what makes Baltimore. Every year they put themselves in a position where they have a chance.
I think so too. And to be honest with you, I got too much respect for John Harbaugh. I would take him above just about any other coach in the NFL. That's how much I respect the guy.
If Lamar Jackson stays healthy, and in any given year, their defense could be a top 5 defense. So.
Yep, and they've added some weapons this year. I mean, I think they got Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver. No, I don't think they didn't get Hyatt. They got Zay Flowers, a wide receiver, which I thought was a great move by them. Cincinnati, obvious contender, no doubt about that. Cleveland. Now you have Deshaun Watson in on his first year. I think they could maybe be a contender, but I can't see them as a team that could legitimately make it to the Super Bowl. Not yet.
I just don't see them jumping over teams like Kansas City and Cincinnati and Buffalo. And we'll leave us out of it for the time being. Yeah. Okay,
agreed. How about Pittsburgh? Now, they had a heck of a draft. They had brought in some really good players, and with Mike Tomlin, that there's a thing they're always going to finish above 500. A big thing is, what is Kenny Pickett going to be? But I don't know if Pittsburgh has the best players at the most important positions, but I think they have elite players at the positions that aren't most important, if that makes sense. I think Pittsburgh's going to be a pretty formidable team, and I'm glad they're not on our schedule this year. What do you think about Pittsburgh?
No, I agree. I think Pittsburgh, I expect them to be a playoff team. They're going to find a way in because of the great coach, great system. I think that if you ask me, in the next 3 years, is it realistic Pittsburgh goes to the Super Bowl? I'd say absolutely 100%. I don't think that next year. I don't think this season is their season. I think watch out for them the season after that and the season after that. Watch out for them after. This is going to be their gelling season, where they're kind of putting together this new direction. Like, it's kind of like that win while you're rebuilding Seattle Seahawks kind of thing. But I think that it's going to come together this year. They're going to surprise people. They're going to be very good. They're probably going to make the playoffs. They'll lose in the playoffs. I don't see them being a Super Bowl team, but then after that, they're going to be very formidable. Like, they might be within the next few years a Super Bowl winner for sure.
Hey, David, have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. Hey, their season this year might be what ours was last year to make the comparison. Okay, so that's 4 teams so far: Buffalo, Jets, Cincy, Baltimore. In the South, I mean, is there any team really that Indianapolis and Houston are obvious no's. I think it's fair to say that.
I think Jacksonville
is probably going to win this division by default. You got to think.
I think because of their division and the fact that they go in as division, probably, I'm not going to say puts them at the level of Buffalo and Cincinnati and Kansas City, but I will say because of their situation, like, they're going to go in as a division winner, I think. So
it's a situation where they
I say they have a slightly better chance than Miami and Pittsburgh. They have a slightly better chance than them because of their situation, but I'm still not going to put them in that category of, do I see them in the Super Bowl yet?
Yeah, I could very easily see a first-round playoff match of Jacksonville hosting a Baltimore or whoever that first team in the AFC East is. I mean, the one thing you have to keep in mind with the AFC East, it's so good. These teams are going to beat up on one another, plus they're playing the NFC East. Well, I think there might be 2 wild cards from the AFC East. I think it might be the lower wild cards as opposed to the top wild card. That's my initial thought as far as that goes. All right, so Jacksonville, Tennessee, I think Tennessee's on the way down. I just don't believe in that team anymore. I'm sorry, I don't at this point. So then in the West.
They did a horrendously stupid thing. They
Yeah,
wiped out
they
the
did.
offensive line and the coach, and that was the whole strength of their team.
They did. Okay, and then in the West, so we know Kansas City is an obvious yes. So that brings it up to, are we counting Jacksonville on this list or no? I mean, as far as a legitimate contender, I feel like they're going to be in. I feel like I got to. I feel like I have to because I got a good feeling they're going to be in. And Calvin Ridley, I think, might be that weapon Trevor Lawrence needs. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to put them not there with Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincy, but the next level down. I think they could at least make the divisional round, and if everything goes right, make a Cinderella run. I have them
slightly above the Steelers and Miami. So, and those are
I'm going to do it.
Miami's a real team that might surprise people. I will just say with Jacksonville, we'll just say that yes, there's a chance that they will, but it would be very surprising.
It would be surprising. Okay, that's fine. So let's just call it 5 for right now. All right, Kansas City is an obvious yes. That's 6 teams. Then you've got 3 kind of weird teams. You got Denver, San Diego. I'm still calling them San Diego. I don't care. Denver, San Diego, and the Raiders. Now, of those teams, I'm not feeling very. The Raiders. Yeah, we'll leave them aside for right now. San Diego and Denver. Denver to me is So Denver brought in Sean Payton. I think and of course you have Mike Westhoff assisting on special teams. If special teams still mattered, I think that would actually concern me. But the big thing is, what will Russell Wilson do? Can he have something of a bounce back season? Even if he does, I think Denver, at best case scenario, is an outskirts wildcard team. San Diego, my God, if you switch coaches in San Diego and Denver, I think San Diego would give Kansas City a run for their money for the division. I feel like San Diego has the pieces. I just don't think they have the coaching.
I can't believe that coach is like Sean. I can't believe that somehow with the talents and the team that San Diego has built, and with Sean Payton's availability, they didn't find a way to make that happen. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. San Diego is the biggest underperformer in the last 2 years of any team in the NFL, in my opinion. I can't believe how much they're underperforming based on the roster that they have.
They're kind of like what Atlanta used to be. Yeah, they're like what the Falcons were for so many years. I feel like that's where but the Chargers always seem to have this little bit of a paper team stigma attached to them. And I think that this last playoff game, enforced it more than ever. It's like, they're a good bully team. They'll beat up on a bad team, but when it really comes down to it, can they beat the best? And that's one reason why I think that game against the Jets is going to be so big. I think that's going to be one of those games that separate a legitimate division contender from a team that's going to be fighting for a wild card spot. I think that's a game we're going to look back on in retrospect down the road, and that game is going to turn out to be pretty pivotal one way or another. I really, really do. So would we say Kansas City is the only legitimate Super Bowl contender? Or can we put the Chargers there, or not really? I don't know if I can.
I kind of put the Chargers with Miami and Pittsburgh.
I feel like there's like 4 to 5 legitimate contenders, and then there's about another 5 or 6 that are kind of like bubbling under the surface. I think that's kind of what I'll tell you. I'll give it 5. Buffalo, the Jets, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Kansas City. I'm going to put those 5 above the rest. Then I would do something like Miami, the Chargers, Jacksonville, and then Pittsburgh. Yeah, definitely Pittsburgh. And I feel like Cleveland it seems like Cleveland and Denver are kind of like just bubbling right under there. One of them might jump up if everything goes right. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I mean, I felt last year that the Jets were realistically it was like you can make an argument that any one of those teams could make the playoffs except the Jets, and maybe back then going into last season. And now I feel like it's kind of fallen off a little bit. Good as the AFC it still is. It's not. Last year, I thought Indianapolis would dominate the AFC South. I will admit that. I was dead wrong about it. I'll call myself out on it. I thought they would kill that division. And they were as underachieving as a team as there was. in that conference. So, yeah, I don't think that the conference is as deep as it was before, but I think it's become more top heavy than it was last season. That's how I'd say it.
It's really hard to imagine that Miami head coach ever hoisting up a Lombardi trophy. I mean, it's freaking Tigo. You know what I mean? They got Tigo coaching them. I mean, it's
Well,
like
they wish they had
Tigo
Tigo coaching them.
They got this little rumpy Tigo guy. Like,
Can you imagine those Tigo speeches, like him breaking down film? Oh my gosh. Can you imagine him trying to keep the attention of like Joey Bosa? Oh my God. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that meeting room.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that pretty sums up the AFC, right?
I think so too. Yeah, I think that's kind of a good feeling where we are right now. Boy, and we still have it's still 3 months to go till opening day, and who knows what's going to happen between now and then. Do you have any plans to? So right now, as far as going to a game, you're planning on Vegas at this point. Is that still in the works?
Yeah, but I would like. I'm waiting on Green Bean, like whichever game they end up going to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try really hard to go. I'm gonna try really hard. I mean, I might have to get some booty flight or something, or use miles that I have built up from, I'll try to figure out a way. But like, I'm really like, I think they're talking about a couple of potential games. But I mean, I got a free place to stay in Staten Island with my friend. It's 5 minutes from Green Bean's family where he stays, which takes care of transportation, getting to the stadium. For me, it's just the flight, so.
Right. And for me, it's almost like the opposite. I mean, back in the day, I had a friend I stayed with in the Bronx up in Pelham Bay, who I always used to stay with, but that eventually ended. But for me, I've got the travel benefits, so that works out well for me. It's really the hotel situation and figuring out where I'm going to stay. But it's harder to plan it now than it used to be because we got all these night games. It just makes it way more difficult. I mean, one thing with the travel is part of me is like, well, Black Friday be cool. The problem is it's Thanksgiving and everybody's traveling, during that time. So, so it makes it challenging. I mean, I even have a friend in South Dakota who I could go see, which is relatively close to Denver, all things considered. So, yeah, I mean, as far as going to a game this year, I really don't know how it's all going to go because let's be honest, the Jets are a hot ticket. You ain't getting a road Jets game for like $20. Most likely, unless it's like at the very end of the season and the team is completely out of it. So it's an investment to get into a game now, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? That's what we kind of want. That's part of the drawbacks of being a team that is in the spotlight. That's just part of the lumps that we got to take, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe the Patriots will be out of it week 18 and the Jets will have a game to win the division. Maybe we'll have that and we'll just like take over Gillette Stadium. How about that? Maybe that's what we should do. We got to do like a Gillette takeover when the Patriots are completely out of it and the Jets can clinch the AFC East in Foxborough. How sweet would that be? Oh,
that'd be awesome.
Man. Dude, I'm at the point I boycott Gillette products. I refuse to use any Gillette products like razors, shaving cream for that very reason, because that name is on the Patriots Stadium. I don't know about you, but that's like the one product I will not buy Gillette for that very reason. So, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. So,
no, definitely not. All right, I think we got to wrap it up.
All right.
What do you got going on, man?
You know what? Been doing most of the videos lately have been baseball related as of recent times. It's like I say, when there's something we're talking about, I'll do it. I was actually thinking about maybe doing some wrestling stuff because with the Dark Side of the Ring shows, those are always pretty good on the Vice Network, and it's always something worth reacting to because those guys do tell pretty good stories. So I'm thinking about maybe doing a reaction video to those series every Tuesday. Maybe I'll start doing that. They just did one on Magnum TA. So I might do that. But as of right now, I have been working on some new graphic designs for some of my football videos with game previews and different stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited about some of the new things that I'll be rolling out over the next couple of months. But hey, check it out, NY Sports, Wicker Media, and man, we definitely appreciate everybody who supports our channels. Thank you guys, and man, look forward to seeing you next week and down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody who stayed with us tonight. We appreciate it. It wouldn't be fun without you. Pretty much nearing the show. I know it's a slow part of the year. Things will pick up. We'll have tons more to talk about. Right now, we're just trying to keep it, the hangout alive right now. It's not that there's anything so critical to talk about, but it just, I started this platform initially. The initial idea was just a place to hang out at the very least. Like, you come into the chat and it was a place we could all talk. You guys hang out with each other. That's what I used to love to do when I watched the other channels. I still love to do it. So I appreciate you guys being here and doing that, and have an amazing week, and we'll see you Sunday night. Take care, everyone. Don't not be Thibodeau. And here it comes. It's about to come in. Oh my God. They didn't. They took Sauce Gardner. Oh my God, they don't want an edge. Maybe he likes Jermaine Johnson at 10. Then we're not going to get a wide receiver? Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. Oh my God, no edge.
Who's sitting there?
The Jets traded up. The Jets traded up. Are we taking JJ? Are we taking JJ? Because I know Braden is in New Zealand saying, we should get Lily, Mike. He's definitely saying that. JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great! Yes! They took Roger McCreary, they didn't take Dean, and we traded up. We can get the Kobe Dean. We can get the Kobe Dean. It really is. They took Breece Hall. They took Breece Hall. Wow. I mean, look, I love Breece Hall. But there's also Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is the best tight end in the class personally. They took Jeremy Ruckert. They took Jeremy Ruckert. Yes! We got a Jeremy. We got a Jeremy. Oh, and the Jets pick, and it's Max Mitchell, offensive tackle. We needed that. That's wow. We took Michael Clemens. I never heard of him. A defensive edge.